Our mind is like a compass, and it can only face in one direction at a time. You can make the conscious effort to move the compass in a certain direction with, conscious effort, but the needle will always fall back into its default place. Think of the compass as your mind and the direction it faces in as the thoughts that you entertain, the beliefs that you have internalized. Now, I want to do some self-reflection real quick. Ask yourself two questions for me. The first one, what circumstances and events consistently show up in my life? And two, are they events that I want? Are they events that I'm satisfied with having, I'm happy to have, that I want to invite into my life? Or are they the very circumstances and events that I'm trying to avoid and grow out of? Because if your answer is pointed anywhere in the direction of I'm not happy with those circumstances, then I advise you to watch this video through to the very end. See, we think of about 70,000 thoughts a day, and only 5 to 10% of those thoughts are conscious. Conscious meaning that the thought was deliberate and distinct. So what about the other 90 to 95% of thoughts that we have? They go towards automatic actions like breathing, blinking, and just going through the motion of completing daily tasks. But they also go by the name of the subconscious. And this is where your beliefs and accumulated experiences which form said beliefs, that's where they all reside. So when thinking about this through the compass analogy, we see that the mind's default position, which we'll call from now on the default north, is the subconscious. When you're asleep, when you're daydreaming, going through daily tasks, this is the subconscious operating. This is the default north. And your default north is created through, countless experiences, good or bad, experiences that may have formed trauma within you, or good experiences that may have, created memories that stuck with you, memories that changed the way you looked at life, that widen your perspective, anything of the sort. So let's say your default north was pointing towards thoughts of self-doubt, thinking you're not good enough, anxiety, or the feeling that you're lacking something. You'll constantly be met with circumstances and events that reflect and mirror exactly that, exactly those beliefs that you have within. For example, being obsessed with money or the grind, it just keeps you in a state of lack. You're constantly feeding your mind a narrative that you're working towards something, but you haven't reached it, and you'll constantly be working towards that thing. You'll never reach it. Whereas if you shift the internal narrative that you already have that thing, that conviction acts as its own emotion, which replicates the state of already having said thing. And a good thing is, you can change your default north. If you can move the compass needle enough times and keep it there for long enough, that direction becomes its new default north. It will assume a new position. Conscious thoughts turn into subconscious beliefs with enough repetition, emotional linkage, and neuroplasticity. So what is the process behind making this shift in your default state of thinking? First, we begin with repetition. Now think of walking through a field of grass, a field of tall grass, right? There's no pathway, but every morning you walk through and you follow the exact path that you're walking through, right? Now the more and more you walk through that field, the more the grass bends, the more the grass moves to the side, reacting to your footsteps until a new trail has been formed, simply from you constantly walking across that path. And this is how things called desire paths are made, where there may be a whole road that was built already, but people see a shortcut and they choose to go the other way. And more people walk through that way until a whole new trail is created. Think of that as your mind and, the linkage strengthening, the bond strengthening within your brain the more and more you think about something. So using this analogy, when thinking about the life you want or the events that you want to experience, you have to constantly feed your brain with thoughts that agree or assume that that thing has already happened. Now we move on to emotion. Now emotion is extremely important to the brain. It's labeled as extremely important. Think of the brain being a post office and thoughts that it receives being envelopes. The envelopes are just generic messages, so they're just put into any locker, right? any normal generic locker. But every now and again, the brain receives an envelope with a stamp on it. And the stamp is the emotion. It's stamped with the emotion of joy, the emotion of fear, any different type of emotion. Now, these emotions are important. So these stamped envelopes are put into special lockers. They're put into lockers that, are easy to access in case of emergency. They're put into lockers that have keys to them, like all sorts. This is an important thought. These thoughts are highly impactful to the brain, and they often last as, depending on whether the experience was positive or negative, they last as trauma or, great memories formed. Now, lastly, is neural plasticity, and this acts as a cement that molds that belief, into your internal system. You see, the more the neural pathway is accessed through repetition, the stronger the bond, the stronger the linkage. And this leads to the conscious slowly becoming an unconscious effort. It becomes automatic. It shifts from conscious effort to automatic response, automatic action. And this is how the new default north is formed. Our brains like to conserve energy. So the more that you repeat this process, the easier it gets, because wherever our focus is put to, most of the time, the brain will automate that as a way to save energy, to save thinking energy, to save brain power. And remember that all of this information is useless. It's completely useless if you do not apply it into your real life, because that's how we get closer to mastering all facets of life.